What we will try and do in today's session, guys, is we'll try and understand the directions in the world of work. We'll try and understand what's happening. You know, many of you have heard about the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Sounds fantastic, jargon, but what is IR 4.0? And why do I need to know? What is also important to understand is what are the current trends in education, right? Both independent in isolation as well as with respect to the industry, right? How do we prepare for the future? And what are the potential futuristic careers? Right? Now, before I get you into that, you know, let's warm up. You can stop, you know, you can stop writing in your expectations. It's IR, Industrial Revolution 4.0 actually. 2 is done. We are 3, moving to 4 now. Okay, just warm up everyone. And it's a simple exercise that we will do before we get started. This is a message maybe at the end of it for most of us or all of us. I want you to think of a number between 1 and 9. Type in Y if you have done that. Should be simple. Please don't write your number. I don't want to know your number. So if I get 4 or 5 responses, I'm done. I am going to move. I now want you to multiply the number that you think or you thought with 9. Just to illustrate, if somebody thought of 2, then he has to multiply 2 with 9. That brings us to 18. You have to again add up the 2 digits so that you get a single number. Or you add up as many times it's required. Actually, it will only be required to add up once to get a single digit. If you have done that, type I. Cool, thanks. Now from the total that you got, I want you to subtract 5 from that number. Your original 1-digit number multiplied by 9. In case it's a 2-digit number, bring it down to a single digit by adding it up. And from that number, subtract 5. Done? Shouldn't take that long. Type in done, D, A, anything, any clue? Great. Thank you so much. A little more. Let's move from mathematics to English. Now, if your corresponding number is 1, then your alphabet is A. Likewise, think of the corresponding English or alphabet in English. If it's 2, it would be B. If it's C, it's got to be 3. Likewise, if it's anything else, you'll know. You don't need to give me the numbers, Zishan, Ziyan. Okay, you have the alphabet with you? Raise your hands if you have your. Lovely. Thank you. I'm going to lower all the hands now. So henceforth, we'll only use the raise hand. Works wonderful. No more. Now think of a country or maybe a European country starting with that alphabet. If you're done, raise your hand. Quick. Lovely. No more hands required. Lower your hands. One more time. Think of an animal Think of an animal starting with the last alphabet of that country's name. So if it is India, the last alphabet of in India is A. Likewise, similarly, think of a color. Animal, not a mammal, not a bird, an animal. And using the last alphabet of that animal, I want you to think of a color. Orange, kangaroo, Denmark in reverse order. So ladies and gentlemen, please don't mistake me as a magician. There is a bit of maths for those who have, anything subtracted from 9, or sorry, if you subtract 5 from 9, it's got to be 4. And then a little bit of common sense and understanding of people's behavior. So with this, let's get started. I hope, so what does it tell us? If there is a message. Is there a message for us? I am sure there are options. There are multiple possible responses. I am not keen on and I don't intend to. My larger point here was, for 90% of the people who completed this exercise, their answer would have been this or almost an orange kangaroo in Denmark. So the point that I'm wanting to make here is, most of us in this room are smart enough. We are almost all equal. We are all good to go. So we are, it's a very healthy place to be in. Don't feel left out. So we are all starting almost equal, similar, and with this, let me move to the next. Come back to my presentation. A lot often, it's a very common conversation that has been happening from generations, where our parents have been telling us the world of work is becoming complicated. My life was easy. Trust me, I heard it when I was growing up. But given my then and now experience, I also feel lucky that while there were changes, while there were options, while the options were available, more options were becoming available to us, you guys are privy to a world which is far more dynamic, far more fast, far more changing than any of us have seen. The point that I'm making is the rate at which change is happening is much faster. In the 90s and 2000, early 2000, when we heard the recession for the first time, the way you hear startup is what we heard as recession. And in the previous recession was a few decades back. Recession is a part of our lives today. The changes are quite few. Reasons that are triggering the change are primarily, if I can think of, are five. Globalization. We are living in an interconnected world. What happens in China impacts the car manufacturers or appliance manufacturers globally. So you're not living in isolation. And hence, globalization impacts options, industries, choices, work, which essentially means kind of jobs, kind of work that we are doing. For many of us who do not understand, who have only heard about global warming, please understand that climate change, the issue of global warming, will impact how many organizations will work. This is real. While some of us might be seeing a greater impact in our own regions, some might be seeing less of it. But, let me give you a very small example. For very long, India has been relying on thermal energy. Because of the rampant increase in population and in pollution, we have seen closure of thermal plants around large cities, which essentially means electricity manufacturers will need to look at other renewable sources of energy. So the moment we move from a thermal plant to a solar plant, a lot would change in between. Would the need for electricity reduce? No. However, it will certainly impact almost people in the same fashion as what we saw, maybe a transistor or a typewriter, or a transition from a Nokia to any other company. Your generation, when you were young, you saw Nokia to be the number one choice, the largest manufacturer by a margin. And that's what we mean when we say change in technology is fast. Not just automation. Automation is something which will trigger, is artificial intelligence, robotics. These are technology. If I couple them all together for now, these are going to be one of the five primary reasons why it's going to change, or how we work would change, how the job roles will change, how industries would change, how some organizations or some industries will become redundant, and how some organizations which are market leaders today might just find their mention in the history books. There is also an increasing trend, both in India and certainly in many larger countries, where we are looking at gig professionals. A lot of millennials and your elder generation is choosing to not look at a typical 9-to-5 job. Employers are increasingly looking at people for short projects. Many of you might be actually donning more than one hat. While my generation was talking about being a super specialist, being able to do a particular job very well, you might be a musician in one part of the day, and a design professional in another. You might be doing two very, very different jobs, or more than two actually. And hence your passions, your interests might you might be able to juggle both of them. And these are real. COVID-19 is primarily something which has fastened the whole process of change. So what would have possibly happened after 7 to 10 years or 5 years? COVID preponed a lot of it. So you need to keep in context that these are primary reasons, and there is also opportunity for you to now look at what is the problem that I can solve with. I don't know how many of you have heard of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but that's a fantastic way for some of you to look at, or all of you rather, to look at and say, what is one problem that I would like to solve? And you will find that based on your interest, based on your abilities, you're able to play a role. And so that's how you find a purpose. I've already spoken about the rate of change being super fast. It's supersonic right now, right? What is also being experienced globally is an entrepreneurial increase in the entrepreneurial interest of individuals. There is an increasing number of people who are interested in setting up their own startups. Why is technology change? What's triggering technology? It is this reasons. I want to be a content writer. Some basic content writing, educating bots can be done by using artificial intelligence. Jobs will become location independent. Imagine if I was a publisher today and I wanted someone to write a book. I can actually employ 10 subject matter experts who are living in 10 different cities in the world. What has interestingly also changed in this is today I can print as per order. How was traditionally the publishing industry operating? They would have large printing orders. They will stock it. The demands, based on the demands, the whole channel will keep supplying. There would be huge inefficiencies. Kitabe jati thi, some of them will come back. When the books come back, they either need to be repackaged and sold, or they need to be scrapped. Scrapping would mean that a large number of paper is being wasted. Even if it's recycled, there is a significant wastage there. Imagine what technology is done today. You get an order, you get it printed in the next 2 hours, and you ship it. What technology is also able to do is help an organization decide whether the printing of this book will happen in city A, or let's say it will happen in Trivandrum or New Jersey. Whether this book will be printed in Noida or it will be printed in Chandigarh, because it allows me to ship and reduce my cost. Am I making sense? technology changes, imagine what was, what is the future of print. In my 20 odd years of experience, I have seen the print advertising going for a sea change. Organizations used to plan their product launches, their marketing campaigns based on space available in newspapers. The percentage of spend on print has significantly come down. It's not even half of it now for many organizations. How is that possible? In this digital era, marketers find it much easy to reach Vikram on a large amount of data footprints that is available of Vikram. And they're able to do more specific, more focused conversations with Vikram. They understand when Vikram or what Vikram watches and what does not watch. That's what the Facebooks and the LinkedIns and the YouTubes and so many others are doing it. Imagine the kind of jobs that will be created for a sheer threat of information security or cyber security. You guys are millennials, understand, you live with it, you talk about it. Would accountants go out of job? No. Would accountants be only or will be the only people doing basic maths? Answer is again no. It is very pertinent to make this point over here. Whether it was Industrial Revolution where the steam engine came in, to today when we're talking about automation, ladies and gentlemen, don't even for a minute think that there will be joblessness. My generation saw a lot of ruckus when the banks were getting computerized, and we largely felt that a large part of the nation felt that computers will kill jobs. It is far from reality. Computers created many more jobs than they were actually available then. But yes, these jobs were different. And this has happened each time. When the steam engine came, they thought, people will lose their jobs permanently. There will be shifts. The joblessness will never be there unless you are not prepared or underprepared. I love talking about this a lot. In India, we do not have a problem of unemployment. Some of you might find me crazy. We do not have a problem of unemployment. Two large problems that are facing our youth, especially the educated youth, is underemployment and unemployability. Underemployment is when you are working in a job which requires a lower education level than you have. Extremely common. How does it impact? It essentially means your compensation for your work would be lower than what you would expect. This is what probably would be at the root of large dissatisfaction with work of people, you know, and hence we see a lot of attrition. The second is when jobless, you know, when you have people who are unemployed and companies seeking people exist, that's unemployability. Where industry, no, Ganeep, there was a change. You probably joined in late and hence uh, might not have caught of it. So no, this is not healthcare. We preponed, we did a little juggle today. So just stay put. We have job, people looking at jobs, looking for jobs, and job industry looking for people. That's because your current skills, you know, the graduates or the educated you do not have the required skills that the industry is looking at, right? And especially when the rate of change is very high, it becomes a bigger problem. We spoke about global warming. I'll probably speed up a little. These are all real. You know, my dad, who served in army for fairly long, for over 3 decades, when he's 85 now. So I'm giving you that context for a reason. When somebody completed school, it was considered to be a, you know, he's an intelligent fellow. If in his age somebody went to college, that was an assurance of a prospering future. Education continued to provide some cushion till a couple of decades back. Education will continue to be important. Please do not mistake what I'm saying, that I am negating or I'm underestimating the power of education. And just because there are a dozen odd classic stories of entrepreneurs who have dropped out of college and created large organizations, please also note that these are far and few, and there is always a Sundar Pichai who's running that organization. So don't see undermining, but yes, education alone will not guarantee you, as it did to the previous generation. Industry is looking at first day, first hour productive employees. Industry is keen to know whether do you have the skills that are required for the job or not. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not just talking about hard skills. Your soft skills, your life skills are as important, if not more. To me, these are inseparable. You know, if you are a great coder, would you become a CTO? Chances now are less. You will need to bundle. I'm just taking that as an example because most of you keep talking about, hearing about coding, right? I can move into any other sector. My only concern is some might connect, might not connect. The new age chief information officers, TTOs, CEOs will not just need to be specialists in their domains, they'll also need to have extremely high skills like empathy, communication. Creativity is going to be one single important skill that will be demanded by the employers. Creativity is not equal to drawing, singing, dancing. It goes much beyond that. But what I'm also saying is drawing, dancing, singing in school theater in school is an important element. Do not assume it to be a waste of time. You know, if you look at the World Economic Report and see the skills that are important, you will find that the skills that were at the bottom, you know, and I'm saying with respect to the employers, are today, after 20 years, right at the top. So if you are part of an education belief that these are unimportant, you will suddenly find yourself to be unemployable. Not because of your hard skills, but because of your soft skills or life skills, as they call it. What is also important, while we faced it, and some of our earlier speakers over the last few days spoke about it, each one of you, irrespective of which field do you get into, you will have to become lifelong learners. Learning will be an integral part of your life. We spoke about it. So right from IR1, Industrial Revolution 1 to what is seemingly IR4, change is the only constant. The rate of change has significantly increased now, which means there is little or no scope to not have a plan. And hence career readiness, career planning will become important. You know, whether you're looking at a career in medicine, or you're looking for a career in high C, I want you to, each one of you, to understand that you'll have to embrace technology. It is inseparable. You can choose, you know, there are three sets of people. Everyone else will perish. You are either one who builds technology, creates technology, develops. Second one could be developing, using technology. The third one is who makes it as a resource. So even if you're looking at a career in fine arts, you cannot not learn the technology in that space. It is rewarding to get into newer, you know, emerging fields. So for those of you who believe that what worked in past will continue to be relevant in the future, I want those parents to look back and understand how in the 80s, people who decided to get into IT were rewarded. They probably saw the fastest growth in their careers. Similarly, if you're getting into an area which is emerging, and please understand, I'm not saying, you know, just because it's emerging, everyone will be successful. It's also important that you do it based on your strengths. But if you get into an emerging area, the chances are you will be able to get a, you know, to grow faster than the average. Entrepreneurship is not necessarily about starting your own. A lot of organizations, almost all the futuristic organizations, are looking at entrepreneur mindset. People who are self-driven, people who have a high internal motivation, people who are able to are resourceful, people who are able to work in ambiguity. That's the trait of an entrepreneur. Nobody who starts a company understands everything about the business, but he's smart enough, or he's resourceful enough. You know, smart sometimes becomes an overused word. He's resourceful enough of bringing in people and resources that he's requiring. I'm going to be repetitive. I'm also looking at my watch. Most of you would work for fairly long. The whole concept of retiring is gone. Nobody's going to retire, guys. None of you is going to retire. You might stop working for the sake of making money, but you will continue to work for a fairly long time, which means it is important that you're able to find purpose. You have mental health and you enjoy what you do. That's at the core of it. I'm not wanting to get into a whole debate of whether people retire, not retire, and stuff like that, right? But what's important is it is important that you work in an area that you're good at and you enjoy. A very simplistic form of the whole motivation, that people keep talking about, work, satisfaction and all, is when you're able to perform your role well in the minimal amount possible or the fastest possible is when you start enjoying your work. And you are doing a work which is appropriate to your skill level, right? Obviously, if you go and do something which is a few grades below your ability, I spoke about this. So everyone's going to use technology. I think this is from a different context, though. I am often not unsure when kids ask, should I pursue data science? Data science is relevant today. It is in great demand today. Data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, they're all interrelated. They're essentially part of the automation, understanding behavior, being able to predict. And they used all across. Tell me one thing, guys, for all those who are looking at data science, artificial intelligence, which is one industry where you feel data science is used the maximum? Type it in the chat window. Where do you think data science is used the maximum? The maximum amount of investments is happening in banking and financial services industry, guys. BFSI is the largest consumer right now. Their products, their services are being built based on that. That is how some of the basic or entry level jobs of the tasks of actuaries is getting replaced. And when this is happening, it's not that actuaries will go off the grid. It is just that they will need to keep moving up the grid. You would need teachers to who will teach technology. If you have observed some of the speakers that we have had, you would find how someone like Mr. Jha moved from industry to academics. Some of you might want to do it, start with academics. Imagine if you have to teach technology, you need to be up ahead of the curve, right? repairers, people who are technicians. Yesterday, a lot of you were excited about being careers in space. Please remember, even a technician in the space industry is in many areas is an engineering graduate. It is just that he enjoys more to do maybe a electrical or solve an electrical problem in a particular aspect of the spaceship or any other area. They will continue to be in use. Subject matter experts would continue to be in use or relevant in the future. Marilyn had spoken about these. Look at design and the importance of design around. Let me look at importance of design in our lives. Everything around you is a masterpiece of design. You know, a Mac is Mac not just because of the technology that comes in. It is a bunch of designers who are able to pack so much into that small piece. Right from spaceship design to product design to designing a mural or a glass. A lot of us have heard the stories of a toothpaste brand increasing the mouth, the size of the mouth, right? And how that impacts the growth of its sale. Visual graphics, performers. These are careers which will remain relevant. Did a radio jockey or a video jockey existed a few decades back? No. Would YouTube outlive our age? No. Orkut was replaced by Facebook. I am sure there is something, either a fatigue or a technology, which will bring in a third and the fourth version and the sixth version of an Orkut and a Facebook. Communication, though, will remain central. You know, I love saying this. The Swiggies of this world, the Zomatos of this world will, in the next couple of years, will tell a Haldiram, I'm just using it for an example, or any top-notch restaurant, what to cook or what to have in their breakfast menu. They would be able to leverage technology and insights, get insights and say, Monday morning, all restaurants in south of Bombay should make this particular dish because this is more prevalent, this is more. So they might actually change your buying behavior. They will remain. People, you know, will. In fact, my guess is that the demand for humanistic, some amount of digital fatigue will bring in a lot of increase in humanistic services. The whole process of or the race that we went through, or the pace that of life is also leading to an increasing awareness of or issues of mental health. And this is a cyclic process we need to understand, right? So my generation classically saw the emergence of plastic bags, and in the over the next 3 decades, we also saw the nuisance out of it. Careers in healthcare, hospitality, other services would continue to flourish in the future as well. As your income capability or your paying capacity goes up, many of us would like to travel more than what we are doing now. As the connectivity of the world and the cities increase, our travel within and outside would significantly increase. As we become more global, we would travel, and even travel for work would help hospitality go up. So these are sectors which have continued to show a strong character, and they are presumed to be relevant in the future as well. We spoke about the gig economy. We talk about gig professionals. This is essentially there. So whether you want to be the finest chartered accountant on earth, or for that matter, any other career, you will need to be agile. You will be a part of a global workforce. You will also need to be sensitive to the fact that there can be breaks. You will need to be someone who's constantly looking at opportunities. My dad or his generation, when they worked, they typically lived their life with one or in worst case scenario, 2 employers. My generation saw a change in employment more frequent. You guys would probably see a lot of precarious work, because you'll probably like to travel and work. You will like to probably not get constrained to a particular project. It's a combination of how industry and how you as the generation Z would like to work. There are enough and more examples, you guys know of it. Look at the impact that cell phones made on the watch industry. Impact of cameras on cameras, impact of computers on typewriters. Look at how the whole DTP industry works. There are zillions of examples. Look at what happened to Walkman. Imagine what happened to the CD players. From a whole generation, from those large radios to listening to music now. Are we saying that this is it? There won't be next change? Variables are being talked about. Tomorrow they're going to be, or something more than that. I'm not necessarily. Many people have come and spoken about it. These are your realities, guys. You will live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. Is there something to worry? No. It is important that you prepare yourself for it. Try and avoid walking a safe path. So when you ask, what is the best career? It gets me worried. There is nothing called a best career. Just like there is nothing called the best food. There is nothing called a best career. Your food, your choice of food depends upon multiple parameters. So does the best career for you? So when you ask what is the best career, you should ask, what's the best career for me? You need to figure out how do you keep increasing your productivity. And I've said that zillions of times. People over the last 4 days have been speaking obscene number of times, right? Uh, on importance of technology. Organizations prefer it, it works for them. Individuals are liking it because they find it appropriate. Uh, and if you look at a lot of West, this is a reality. So when I say embrace temporary work, there's nothing wrong. The whole notion of a 9 to 5, 9 to 7 is something that the earlier generations lived with. Changing jobs or employers was considered to be non-loyal, or at some point it was considered to be a very unethical practice. Has it anything to do with morality or ethics? Answer is no. Similarly, is there anything wrong in gig work? Answer is no. It's a choice. If it works for X people. What essentially, when we speak about, Aisha asked if you can talk about selling yourself, essentially, you need to learn to promote yourself. I don't want to jargonize as we're saying self-branding and all. It essentially means you should be able to know what you're good at and help people know that you are good at what they're looking at for. So it's not just about having the skill and waiting for people to come and find you. It's also saying that if you're good at it, it will also become imperative for you to let people know. Influencers existed. Today, there are zillions of them. Your visibility is important. Entrepreneurs, it's right there. So Aisha, if I need to, the point number 4 essentially elaborates very clearly on what we are saying. You are increasingly living in an interdependent world. You cannot operate in isolation, and hence it's important that you develop those skills. That's broadly, given that it's already 5. This is me. Most of you have my email in any case.